Hi guys. First, my thanks to Zena Foundation for arranging this, uh, shall we say, presentation on a subject that is of importance to a lot of people. So I welcome all the old members and any new members we have, and I thank them for giving me the opportunity to express my views on a subject I think is very important, and that is health. Today's talk is on self-image. It is actually the fifth layer in my progress from crisis to past to anger, fear, and the last is self image. And the reason for this is one, it's very complex. Two, it depends on the things that come before the anger, the fear. Until these have been cleared out, talking of self image may not help. There's another thing to boost self image, hopefully, you also to some extent boost the confidence and aggressiveness of a person. So you really want to be sure that you have first reduced anger, cut down fear, mellowed the person up a bit, and then we tackle self-image. Okay, now the most common damage to self-image, I'm basing this on the sample of people who come to me, is actually weight gain, excess weight, and largely among women. For some reason, the men don't seem to care, which is, in my opinion, stupid because they're dying of heart attacks. Now, it's 10 times more difficult to lose weight than it is to put on weight. So it is always important to understand when that person started putting on weight. What happened at that time? What were the events that triggered this state where you start gaining 10, 20, 30 or more kilos without being concerned about your own image? Then afterwards say, listen, my self-image is damaged because I've got 30 kilos excess, is unfortunate. Let's use that word. This should be done the moment you realize you are putting on weight. Now, there are no specific remedies in Bach for weight. Like in allopathy, almost all the medicines are based on amphetamines that get you hyped up, overactive, and unfortunately very often edgy and aggressive. Okay. And when the amphetamine wears off, there is a huge downer after that. So these are not amphetamines, but they will motivate you to get up, look after yourself, walk, run, exercise, swim, whatever it may be, to do what it takes to get you back to normal. And I'm talking of at least four close friends who have lost up to 20, 30 kilos. But over the course of the year, I have dealt with more people than that. I'm just quoting you some. And each one said that we felt motivated to get back to our healthy image, let me put it that way. Okay. And it took time. In one case, the person also had to give up a very, very stressful job because that stress was making her binge eat. So it may be many factors that go into weight loss, but really it is the motivation to be well, to feel good about yourself when you look at in the mirror, and frankly, get off your butt and do it. That willpower needs to translate into action. So that's one broad area of self-image. And there are specific remedies like wild rose, steranthus, hornbeam, gentian, centauri, red chestnut, which will push you towards looking better. I'm not talking of looking better from a point of vanity. Vanity is a different thing. And yes, every time you use Bach remedies, your face will look like you've grown 5, 10 years younger. Always happens. No, I'm talking about genuine self-image that is making you think less of yourself, not do things you would otherwise do. Okay. Very typical if children in the ages 8 to 10, 15 get excessively heavy. Parents stuff them full of food or they don't control the junk food they're eating. And there isn't enough exercise to burn it off. Then this becomes a very dangerous progression. The heavier the child gets, the more difficult it is for them to compete, to play sports, to be active, to run, and then the more weight they put on. So, earnest request to people is do not overfeed children. If possible, give them good, healthy food, and most important, make them exercise. I'm talking of reasonably strenuous exercise. Make sure they don't put on weight. Because once they put it on, getting it off is damn difficult. And here the image or the damage is not only to the image. One is at a very critical age. That child will feel less than others. Also because she will not be able to participate in sports and other activities simply because the weight gets in the way. Very often they'll be teased, they can be bullied. Okay? This may not happen to adults, but it surely happens to children. And that bullying, etc., now translates into another aspect of self-image, which is actually very painful. And this, as I said, is when a person thinks less of themselves, less than others, less than what they would like to be. And it's also a slippery downward slope because it feeds itself. The less confidence you have, the less you try, the more you fail. Okay. And this is not a healthy thing to do. It will impact your work, your profession, your career, your relationships. Okay. So the moment you feel that as an individual, you are thinking less of yourself than you should. Now, I'm not saying go the other way and become arrogant and proud, but have a healthy self-respect and self-image. That's very, very important in your life. And it's not that difficult. As long as you don't put on weight, you don't have the problem of losing weight. So try and keep that balance right from the age of 7, 8 onwards. This is mainly to parents. Do not let the children get chubby fat. I know in India it's a sign of prosperity and healthy, whatever. And feel frustrated explaining to parents that their desire to show that their child is healthy, show it in society, is actually costing the child its fundamental self-image. Please stop. Prevention is 1,000 times better than cure. And like I said, I've touched only the first layer. Now, there are situations where a person feels genuinely, I am less than others. Nothing to do with weight, this, that, looks, whatever. They genuinely feel I am less than others. And therefore, I cannot do X, Y, Z. Others can do it, I can't do it. And sadly, this very often comes from criticism by parents who make the child feel that they're not good enough, that some friend, peer is better than them. So they show off and says, look, this child does so well. Why don't you do the same? It was done to me, believe me. When I was a kid, once my mother made such a comment. I fortunately am a real pushy guy. I use that word. So I told her frankly, I said, you're comparing me to a guy who gets high marks. But what else? Does he play 17 sports like we do, like I do? Is he the captain of his cricket team? Does he do debates and does he do X and Y? I said, that's the overall person. I'm not going to concentrate so much on studies that I ignore these other aspects of growing up. So if you have a problem, and I said this very bluntly, go adopt that guy. I'll leave the house. But don't ever compare me to someone else because that comparison is not fair. But a lot of children can't tell their parents. The constant criticism from their parents damages their self image, their self esteem, and ultimately results in an unhappy child. So this child is not going around thinking, yes, I can do this, I'm capable. They've not been taught, hey, here, learn to light a fire, learn to use a screwdriver and open a cabinet or open a toy, learn to do this. There's some lovely write ups on this on my timeline where mothers can teach their children to acquire capabilities. I did this with my daughters. I made them climb down hills, I made them get into rivers, I made them open up things, various things that made them feel that, hey, we're competent people, you know, we're not helpless. We don't have to depend on some servant or elder and say, oh, please help me with this. This has got dangled like this. Please help me out. The child who gets up and does it themselves will be a happier child, especially as they grow older. In case of guys, it doesn't create a good impression to the girl you are out with if you're constantly depending on someone else. For women, frankly, at least I think a confident woman who's not constantly going to the husband saying, please do this for me, please do that for me, because I don't know how to do it. This is fundamentally detrimental to a person's happiness. This feeling is, I am not good enough to do this. The remedy specifically for this issue is large. It creates in oneself a sense of, hey, I can do, if he can do it. I remember I never wanted to drive in Bombay because of the hellish traffic. Then one day, sitting in the taxi, and I saw this 80-year-old lady hugging the steering wheel, holding on to it, peering through her glasses at the road, and driving that car. So my response to that was, hell, if she can do it, I can do it. You know, it can't be that much of a problem. And this attitude that I can do it is extremely fundamental to all aspects of our life. Now, there are some aspects of self-image that are not in our control. This may be our physical looks, features. It could be a blemish, it could be a scar, it can be many things. One of the things that Bach remedies do a wondrous job of is improving our complexion. Adding star of Bethlehem, olive, elm, uh, white chestnut to a night cream and applying it does wonders for your complexion. It clears blemishes, it clears pimples. You know, sometimes children are so freaked out by pimples that again it damages self-image. I know someone who's actually a good model, but now she's not able to because certain hormonal imbalances have started throwing up pimples on her face. So while it sounds pretty harmless, Pimples can be a pain. The use of just these four remedies in any lotion or just wash your face with them once or twice a day, and you will see great improvements to your complexion. I know a situation where a guy refused to marry a beautiful woman because she had a burn scar on her hand. During Diwali, fireworks had given her a burn. Know another lady who had actually got burns on her back. In both cases, the parents of the boy, maybe not even the boy, said, no, 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 damaged goods. How can our son marry a woman with a scar? This is very typical of India, that a simple blemish, either natural, born, temporary, or even more permanent like a scar, they are treated as blemishes to the character of the person. And that is stupid. There's no other word for it. A million ways we humiliate children, make them feel bad. But having a scar is probably the worst of the reasons. Now, I did some years ago write a software app for victims of acid burns. But this is a horrific thing to look at. There is distortion of face, hands, neck, skin, and I wanted to create support groups for people who have burn injuries. It's a long story. But barring such extreme issues, the odd scar on the face or the back or the hand or whatever cannot be something that will make a child feel bad for. And I've seen many parents do it with their own children. Now, scars that are old will also heal with Bach remedies. I had deep scars on my hand, can barely see them now. I was never doing something to specifically remove the scar. But among the remedies I took for various things, obviously I took Star of Bethlehem, I took olive, I took white chestnut, I took others. And after some years, I noticed that the scar on my hand was greatly diminished. I have another scar on my arm that I was cut with a knife. And it's a broad, very visible scar. I looked at that and that has shrunk. Again, I have not put anything on that particular scar to get rid of it. But the body in the process of healing, as I say, every 7 years we renew cells. The body has been doing this on its own. And of course, that is after the scar. Most important is avoid a scar. Even more in COVID days, but earlier, I frequently burnt myself when I was cooking. And I have so many friends at boiling water and all kinds of rubbish fall on them. Normally, that's going to leave a bad scar. First of all, you'll get blisters. Then it will leave a scar. And the scar could be unpleasant. The application of Bach remedies, the moment you get burnt, guarantees it will heal without a scar. The key remedies are elm, Star of Bethlehem, again olive, which is common to a lot of these. Okay, and it's got to the point where if I do burn my hand, and I mean reasonably badly, I don't freak out on it. I know the moment I apply elm and impatience, the pain will go, period. The moment I apply holly, I'll begin to forget that I've got burnt. The moment I put olive, willow, a couple of these remedies, I can see the tissue healing. Within 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, where is that burn I had? You know, and you realize that one, your mind has begun to forget the pain and the event, and two, it is healing without a scar. Now, from the physical let's get to the emotional scars and damage that happen to people. I hear this all the time. My husband constantly puts me down. I feel lousy. My father puts me down, for guys very often. My mother puts me down, women very often. And these are hurting the person's very fundamental belief in themselves. It's not good. And it's certainly not good when a woman gets this from her husband. Oh, you're not good at this. You're not good at anything. You don't do anything for me. That kind of bullshit. I had a case yesterday. Husband keeps complaining that getting married to her was the worst thing that had happened to him. And the cause of all the bad luck that has followed his life. The fact that he has got ego problems, cannot hold a job, is not particularly whatever, that doesn't occur to him. It's easier to blame the wife that since you came into my life, everything has gone wrong. In India, again, a lot of people believe this, that a person has been a bad influence for them, not on them, but for them. Since they have come into his or her life, their life has gone downhill, call it. Now, yes, to some extent, if that person brings conflict, it will affect you. I'm talking of this bigger thing that says, oh, your stars don't match mine, therefore you are a negative influence on my life cycle. That is very unfair. It's very unfair. But it happens, and it happens more in India than, say, for example, in Germany or the US. So don't pull down a person because of your problems. If you are having an issue, blaming somebody else will not solve your problem. They will create an additional problem. They will destroy somebody's self-value. And here I'm using the word value, not image. A person must value who they are. And you're killing that value they have in themselves, that I'm a good person. So for this, frankly, uh, the best remedy is for the culprit to stop doing it. If they continue to do it, they are going to continue to hurt the person's self-value. But there are remedies again, like larch, gentian, hornbeam, that make people feel, hey, I'm a competent, good person. Now, next statement should be, I don't have to take this bullshit. But in India, for whatever reason, very often children, women continue in abusive relationships. Men also. It's not only men who are abusive. I know women who can take you down every single time they open their mouth. That's just a way and cynical way that they behave. And ultimately leads nowhere. Yes, families are living together because they're worried about their children. But numerous times I've been told that the day my kids are married and out of the house, I'm going. I don't need to put up with this. I don't need to be told what a lousy person I am. And I've seen one extreme case where a child was being 8-year child was being very hostile and aggressive to the mother. So I got pushy. I said, listen, please tell me what the heck is happening. Tell me the history of this child. And she said, oh, I adopted her when she was 2 years old, and now she's 8 or something. I asked her, I said, do you ever criticize this child in public, in front of others? She said, yeah, I do that. I pass comments. And I said, the child is hearing those comments. She said, yeah, what's the big deal? I said, the big deal is the child is adopted. She was rejected once already by her mother. Now you're criticizing her in front of others and making her feel that she would be rejected again. And you would probably go out and find yourself another child. She doesn't understand. She just feels that she is replaceable. She can be discarded. That woman, fortunately, was a very sensible lady. She said, "You may be right. Let me talk to her." And she did that. Had a good talk with the child. And in fact, the child was feeling rejected. Had a good conversation, resolved her fear that she would be traded for another child, that she would not be thrown out, because she had a good relationship with this adopted mother. She was scared of losing it. But once the parent talked to the child, that fear was dealt with. And this brings me to my closing point, since I think I am now this. Ah, my mind. Yeah, communication. I don't think parents realize enough how important it is to praise the child. They'll criticize the child on the spur of the moment because children do rubbish and they get criticized. How often does the parent actually go out of their way to praise a child? Hey, you did that well. Thank you for helping. Thank you for doing this. Okay? That was smart of you. I'm glad you fixed it. So many phrases. A short little thing that tells the child, hey, you're being appreciated. Because self image ultimately, yes, is a combination of physical factors, but it's really a combination of value given to you. I was surprised once. I know it's a stereotype, but as attending a marriage, beautiful girl, the guy was not necessarily good looking by conventional standards. I was a little surprised. And I got to meet them, and I found a very positive, confident, competent human being, okay, that you could appreciate. It made you forget the fact he didn't look all that hot kind of thing. Because when he opened his mouth, when he spoke, he made up for it. And that was because he had a very good self image, both as an athlete, then later as a student. And I'm sure his family did their bit to make him feel good. And that's something is a medicine. We can all do it to our children. And today I honestly tell any adult, please worry a little bit about your child's self-image, self-value. Make it a point. Yes, you can use Bach remedies. They work wonders, especially in the early ages from 10, 12, 14, 17, 16, 17. They avoid the problems of being a teenager. They also avoid problems of health later on because you've dealt with these critical emotions early. When they're easier to deal with, later on they become more difficult. And especially after relationships and breakups and all other kinds of issues, it gets complicated. So do this while your child is young, and you'll guarantee that their future will be protected. Remedies will help them, and I'm doing this on a day-to-day basis. And when the child feels good about himself, herself, that aggressive behavior, sometimes rebellious behavior, sometimes downright rude behavior, all that stops. The child starts to talk normally to the parent. There is no hostility because the child is not feeling threatened. And really, it's something that every parent should realize. Numerous times I come across children and I'm told, oh, this boy is very angry, aggressive, etc. I said, hold it. Tell me about his father. Oh, his father is also angry, abusive, blah, blah. I said, where do you think the child is picking this behavior from? Daughters pick up some very bad habits from their mothers. And if a parent is not aware that his negative behavior is affecting his child's behavior, then that person is fooling themselves. Even at the age of 5 and 6, children pick up bad behavior. I asked a lady once, I said, how come he talks to you so roughly, your child? That's the way my husband speaks to me. He's picking up all my husband's behavior. Husband speaks like this, the boy speaks like this, which is very tragic. To me, it's tragic that the boy is learning bad habits. As far as the other thing is concerned, I sometimes genuinely feel that at least Indian wives take too much crap from their husbands. Always, always again, oh, I have a child, I'm trapped, I can't leave. And that's a fact, let's be honest. In India, there is no support system for women. Sometimes their own family will not support them. They can't get social service, they don't get free education. There's no free Medicare like in Canada or Germany or in the US. And I tell practitioners in these countries, I said, you have an attitude that says, oh, husband is abusive, tell the woman to walk out of the house. Give her these remedies and she'll clear out. I said, that is short sighted. You can't do that in India. Agreed, the person is damaging self image. The woman is feeling miserable. There's no doubt about that. But it's not that easy for a single woman in Indian culture. She'll get called all kinds of names. She'll be abused and, in fact, may even be harmed because a single divorced woman is deemed to be fair game. Yeah, I know. I see an emergence these days of strong single mothers. Makes me really happy. And I see the way they treat their children. And they treat the children with respect. They teach them to respect. They teach the child to have value for themselves because they found that value for themselves. They've left abusive relations. They've gone out on their own. They're managing to hold a good job. They're running their house. And on the whole, by solving their problems, they are not passing them down onto the children. So I think I will be concluding. The point of self-image is it's a complex thing. I may have to do another lecture, but it's also absolutely vital to our functioning as human beings. It could be an army person going to war feeling confident of who he is. It could be an athlete who wins a medal and everything in his or her life after that begins to improve because that confidence in who they are has come to them. And as I said, accomplishment is one thing. Not every child will be a champion runner or football player or whatever. That's not always the case. But every child, every human being has something in them where they're better, good at, maybe better than others. And if their partner, if their parent, if their family encourages that, correct, then they're laying the grounds for a healthy citizen, adult going forward. And I see guys getting very riled up because some mothers do give that girl child a lot of attention simply because the girl child faces challenges. And the boys don't like it. Why are you being soft on my sister? Why are you hard on me? And the answer I was given when I was a kid is, hey, listen, you're a guy. You better learn to handle things. Your sister has too many handicaps. Just starting off life as a woman, at least in Indian society. Okay. So I'm going to do what I can to support her. This is not the basis for jealousy or rivalry. There is a reason for which I do this. I'm confident in you. I don't worry about you. You'll figure yourself out. It won't be so easy for your sister. So parents who talk to their children, and coming back to communication, communication is extremely important. Whether you're talking to your spouse or your child